1. The setting. Just before going to uni, I decided to get a student's main nourishment, coffee. So I take a detour to Reva, a German supermarket, and get 2 small coffees from the fridge. I then start to walk towards the register. Note that this market is rather small and the aisles are narrow, but can still fit 2 people without having to get intimate, let alone colliding with each other, even when they are a bit more on the chubby side, of which I'm guilty. Now Ken and his girlfriend decided they had to get something from the front and as such, created a 2-way street. The room was available, so no problem, right? The veterans on here will know, ain't no way. The incident. Instead of walking in a row like good little ducklings, they decided that they are entitled to walk where they please, since all time and space belong to them. Me, not expecting such arrogance, simply do the most human thing possible. When wanting to get from point A to point B, I continued walking, expecting them to react in time, and didn't pay further attention. Now I have rather broad shoulders and I have stable footing. The girlfriend decides not to walk behind Ken and bumps into me. I barely felt it, and I was sure she wasn't hurt either by a small bump like that, so I continued to the register, paid and left. The chase. Outside, I managed to cross the street before Ken caught up and started talking, so I pulled out my pods. What followed was a waterfall of why I rammed his girlfriend, why I didn't move to the side, and why I didn't apologize. Since I didn't see any reason for escalation, I tried to explain to him that if you rub 2 brain cells together, you would have realized that there was enough room for them if they didn't walk beside each other, and all I could have done to avoid a collision was to jump on the salad bar. Somehow his pride either blinded him to logic or his testosterone simply clogged up his neurons. He could not admit that they were at fault. The Iago of the green-eyed monster, surprisingly, the girlfriend told him to let it be and he backed down after a while, making the use of violence luckily unnecessary. My first thought was that the girlfriend was quite reasonable or smart, but in hindsight, I cannot shake the feeling that she was quite calculating and wanted to test her boyfriend, and after seeing that he was a good tool, called back her bloodhound. By the way, Ken, I do apologize that I cannot bend time and space to make more room, or that I'm too weak to just shove the salad bar to the side, so that there is enough space for you, your girlfriend, your humongous ego, and whatever poor sod decides to use his right of walking. 2. This is a story about an incident a friend of mine recently had. In Germany, we currently have this group of activists consistently making headlines about blocking the street by gluing themselves to the ground and refusing to move. They call themselves the last generation, and they do this to protest the handling of global warming. I don't know if that's a thing in other countries, but I'm pretty sure it is. That already is pretty entitled, I think, blocking the street. Not the climate activism, of course. Because apparently there have been some instances of important vehicles being blocked, like a truck that carries those medical oxygen bottles for people with lung diseases and stuff. Don't get me wrong, climate change, global warming is a huge issue that needs a decent amount of activism going on for it, and as long as the activists are reasonable and actually try to provide solutions, I am more than happy to support them. But nowadays we have this abnormally huge problem that people only tend to see the extreme point of views in a very black and white fashion. Anyways, here's the main story. The friend I mentioned earlier loves his motorcycle, and whenever he can, he uses it instead of his 99 Volkswagen Golf with horrible fuel consumption. Usually, that also provides him with the opportunity to just avoid activists that block the street, as there will be 3 or 4 for an entire street, and he can just carefully drive between 2 of them. The day this story happened, they held a banner though, and being a way more patient guy than I would have been, he decided to not drive straight through the banner. Instead, he thought to himself, well, I've got time, let's try something. So he shut down his motorcycle, went up to the activists, sat down next to one of them and said, "Talk to me." Silence followed. "Why are you doing all of this?" Silence again. "I I heard some other activists say that everyone should be more open to you. You have my attention, talk to me. They do not talk. Do you realize that you are just pissing way more people off than you actually convince to be more self-conscious in regards to living more sustainably? Seriously, you need to talk to me. You want change? Then maybe offer some solutions if they are achievable and reasonable. I will happily support you. But if you can't even talk to me, or anyone for that matter, I don't understand how you're supposed to get some actual change going. Listen, I've got time. I will go back to my bike, but if you feel like answering my questions. But if you're not even willing to simply talk, don't expect anything to come out of it. Silence remained. A thing I realized about both the last generation as well as Fridays for Future pre-pandemic is that most of them go out to demonstrate with a burning passion. But when it comes to providing solutions or even just ideas, most of them become really quiet really quickly. I have to admit that I haven't been that up to date with them, but I do see headlines, and never have I ever seen a headline that indicated that climate activists provide an actual idea of what we could do instead of just mindlessly protesting. Just think about it, Greta Thunberg had the attention of the entire world. She was invited to the fucking United Nations, and all everyone seems to remember is her giving everyone shit about fucking up our planet. How dare you? Which I guess is justified, but it won't change the past, and it will definitely not change our future. Take the friend, for example. He sells solar panels. Not by the seashore, which are in high demand because most Germans actually don't want electricity produced by burning coal or natural gas, contrary to what our government might believe. Sometimes he has to drive a lot of kilometers to reach a client's house, which can be at places that don't even have the infrastructure to handle public transport. So he doesn't have a choice but to use his private vehicles. Even then, he usually chooses his well-maintained motorcycle that uses an adequate amount of fuel, instead of his abnormally much fuel-burning car. And while he's on his way to do his part of creating a more sustainable society, he gets interrupted by climate activists who are not even willing to talk with anyone. 3. Long time ago, I was on vacation in Greece with my family and my back-then girlfriend. My parents drove to the area where we spent our vacation in their Volkswagen bus, and I followed them on my motorcycle to have a bit of independence. The camping ground we stayed at was at the end of a one-lane dirt road from very fine sand. Now imagine driving on that road with a 1978 Yamaha SR250 with tarmac cutters for tires, and my girlfriend behind me. One simply doesn't drive fast in such a situation. Behind me was a car following us. When we reached the main road, we turned right and the car left, but with screeching tires. Later, when we came back, we've been told that we're, my girlfriend and I, not invited to the birthday party barbecue for the Antiquity the next day, because the Antiquity, our nickname for the woman driving the car, because she looked like a 200-year-old leather, was mad about us not driving faster or letting her pass. We were dumbfounded because she did in no way indicate that she was in a hurry and wanted to pass. But we thought, okay, there are enough restaurants nearby. My girlfriend and I will go out eating there. No problem, we're not even friends with her, so whatever. The next morning, my girlfriend and I went down to the beach to waste time there and do some windsurfing. Around 11 a.m., Dad came down too and told me they had just planned who's going to rotate the suckling pig that's being roasted for the barbecue in the evening. The Antiquity and her boyfriend tried to have me doing shifts rotating the pig, but my dad told them, hell no, if my son isn't invited, he's not going to rotate the pig, and told me to jump on my motorbike and leave, so that those morons can't try to guilt-trip me into rotating the pig. What I did. My girlfriend and I had a great day driving along the Greek coast. We returned about an hour before the barbecue was about to start for changing clothes to go eat at a restaurant. Meanwhile, the owner of the campground had heard about me being uninvited to the barbecue. That's when he became angry and told the Antiquity and her boyfriend that he's the one that organized the pig, built the pit to roast the pig, and that it is his camping ground. Then he said that me and my girlfriend are guests on his camping ground, and therefore we will be part of the party. Either that or the whole party will be cancelled. So we partied, and boy was I fucked up from warm Amstel beer and ice-cold ouzo. The antiquity sulked the whole time whenever she saw me that evening. 4. Backstory. I never personally worked with this Karen, but I'd seen her chatting with everyone in our department on the workplace chat group made by our department manager. It reached the point where she just refused to work unless it was under her terms, and made up excuses on why she couldn't work her assigned shifts. I'm just going to list off a few things I recall seeing on work chat. A bit of my short experience with her that I'll mention that I was told by coworkers, and what leads up to when she was eventually let go due to refusing to work her shifts and whatnot. "Hey, anyone want Thursday off?" she asked. "I can take your shift and you can get the day off instead." "Sure, you can take my 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift." Actually, I meant night shift." "Oh, okay, that's fine, but I'm still leaving it open for grabs because I've got things to do and can't make it." "Karen, can you take my 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift because I have to open the following day?" "I can't work later than 10 p.m. I need my sleep and I live very far from here." Note, I didn't respond because I was at work and was only able to take a quick glimpse at my phone. Also, I only work mornings, so I don't usually respond to picking up night shifts, and only respond to shifts I know I can pick up or a message personally by a coworker. Several days later. "Hey, can anyone pick up my night shift? I'm not feeling well and I've been feeling off all day." Nobody responded because we were all busy dealing with other things at the moment. Was told a few days later she never showed up for her shift that day or called out. Days later. "Does anyone want my morning shift for their night shift? I'm not a morning person and really need my sleep. Hey, hello? Does anyone want my morning shift? It's from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 minutes goes by with no response. I've seen her message, but it was in the middle of rush hour and I had a rush of drinks to make. Also, that shift was technically a mid-shift, not even a morning shift anymore. I know because I'm scheduled that shift several times. Wow, so that's how it's going to be. If nobody wants my shift, then just say it. Don't just ignore me like that. Rude. She unsends the message before saying, "Oh, sorry, I didn't type that. It was my sister who wrote that last part." Sure, Karen. Now comes my short experience with her. First day, she was supposed to be my night replacement along with Bella. It was a bit busy, so I stayed a few minutes behind to help Bella catch up on drink orders before noticing Karen has yet to show up. So I went to Zelda and told her, "Hey, Karen hasn't shown up yet and is past my out time. Did you want me to stay or wait, or can I head out?" "Give me 2 minutes and I'll give Karen a call." I'm not worried about it, and I agreed and went back to helping Bella again. It's about 15 minutes after my shift, and Bella is caught up with drinks and told me I can head out until Karen arrives, so I approach to see Karen's status. So I call Karen, and she's currently stuck in traffic. If Bella is all caught up with drinks, you can head out. I confirm that I just helped Bella get caught up with everything, and Zelda gives me the okay to leave for the day. Day 2, Karen again pulls the same thing, claiming she was again going to be late due to being stuck in traffic. Luckily, that day was a very slow day, and I was allowed to leave on time as soon as Bella arrived to replace me. Now is when she was fired. Daryl told me after I found out Karen was fired that she never actually wanted to run drinks except 1 or 2 the entire shift, and would always be on her phone or wandering off somewhere to hide, until managers intervened to get her back to work. Then she'd refuse to assist with bringing dirty dishes down to be washed and make everyone else do it instead, as well as faking not feeling well right after clocking in for work, then getting sent home, as well as picking up shifts and then just not showing up to them or claiming, "I overslept and didn't hear my alarm," or "I misread my schedule and I thought I was working tomorrow," while again pulling another no-call, no-show. Management had enough and fired her along with several other people too, One whom I'll mention was caught sleeping on the job, and smugly said to a fellow co-worker, "You owe me for making me have to bring these dishes downstairs to be washed," when she and several other people were having upset stomachs due to something they ate for lunch that evening. She didn't owe him nothing. He was sleeping on the job and she was doing all the work. She was perfectly fine after a few hours and still works there. 5. It was a pretty mild summer, so the turnout was higher. Go figure, people didn't want to be boiled to death while trying to eat a piping hot funnel cake in the middle of the day, who knew? I'm going about my day doing normal Saturday chores, lawn and grocery shopping. I get back to the store, and by some miracle no one is blocking my mailbox. Good, my mailman is incredibly lazy and won't approach if a car is too close. Also, stories for a different day, and no one's in my drive. Yet. With things put away in the house, I go outside. My trash cans, recycling, green waste, and general garbage are out on the road, because for some reason it makes sense for the busiest street to have pickup on days events are consistently happening on it. I'm surprised to find the trash cans have all been picked up before noon, so I should be able to get them all pulled back to my house before there's a lot of people trying to use them. The fairground literally has over 100 trash cans set up, or someone tries to move them to park, which, according to city code, they aren't allowed to do, but again, the cops in this town don't care at all. I was wrong. I'm walking out my door as a car pulls up in front of my bins. A dad, 2 boys, and a grandpa get out. I'm not even 5 feet away. This old guy had to have seen me. He walks to the back of their SUV, opens my green waste bin, and tries to throw a mostly full Gatorade bottle in. I yelled, "Excuse me, please don't throw your garbage in my bins." The old man turns to me, puts his hand to his ear and goes, "What?" like he's hard of hearing. I'm not deterred by this because unless he's colorblind, and mostly visually impaired with dementia, he knows better. I repeat myself, "Please don't put your garbage in there." The dad of the boys calls out, "Come on, Dad, let's go." Magically, the old man's hearing is perfect. His son was further away, still by the front of the SUV, and the old fart says, "It's not that big of a deal," and walks away, bottle in hand. Sir, why did you need to throw away a mostly full bottle? Why couldn't you have carried it another 30 feet to the public bin across the street? Why did you go for the green waste bin when the garbage can is next to it? Great way to start my afternoon. Later that afternoon was my first entitled Parker. I go to look out my front window, trying to decide if it's worth it or not to go over and get a cupcake from one of the stands I really like. Lo and behold, there's a weird car in my drive. I ask my neighbors. Not theirs. They thought we got a new one. They tell me to call the police because that's what a cop told them to do. We could get in trouble for any damage to the vehicle and a towing company could charge us since it's our property. Being 22 at the time, I accepted this truth because adulthood comes with lots of rules, so okay. I go back to my house to call the cops. As I'm going in my door, I hear the car start and turn to see a gaggle of women getting in. I'm already annoyed, so I yell, "This is private property." The driver pops back out of the car and says, "We weren't even here that long." Because that somehow matters. I decided I'm not going low, so I just go back inside and tell my husband that night I'm slashing tires from now on. He looks me dead in the eye and asks, "You want them to leave, so why would you make it so they can't leave?" Realizing what I just said, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do then. It really should not be that hard to respect other people's property. To anyone thinking, well, I'd rather not litter, so that's why I use random strangers' trash cans. Do you realize you can just hold on to your crap and not litter in general? Or you're that desperate to throw something away you can't knock on someone's door? I've had people just on a normal day walk all the way down my driveway and into my lawn to get to my trash can to throw something away. That's just obnoxious. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 125. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, if you'd be so good as to poke the like button. Also, if you'd like to get the videos a little bit earlier, you can support me and the channel for as little or as much as you like through my Patreon, which is linked in the description. That's Hellfreezer on Patreon. You can also find the link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store where you can get yourself some of my amazing Hellfreezer merchandise, if I do say so myself. Other Hellfreezers might disagree that it's amazing, but I think it's awesome. And you can also make donations during streams, when I do them, and videos like this one. This is not required, but it is appreciated and helps pay for my sandwiches. It's an addiction, I tell you. Alrighty, don't think there's any other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day, although I do need to check. I was thinking earlier that I should probably check my spam folder to make sure nobody's birthday requests have got caught in there. But anyway, question of the day, related to one of the stories there. This is going to be a controversial one, and it's actually a controversial one. Do you agree that climate protesters generally like to protest for the attention and don't have any ideas what to do, i.e. they're mostly demonstrative, or do you think it's more complicated than that? Personally, I think it's more complicated. We have groups like that, the very one mentioned here in the UK, you know, the spoiled brats going into stores and pouring milk on floors. That's not helpful, you're just making people's jobs more difficult. That's demonstrative. That doesn't help anybody. But there are very smart people out there, people who do take actions of protest, who do have ideas, who do have solutions for building a better world, a better tomorrow. It's just a matter of fighting to get people to give them a chance, fighting with the government, fighting to get funding for them. And then people will see that there are other ways. So I think it's more complicated. But I'd like to know what you think if you're willing to share in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.